I'm Sarah Knight, and welcome to It's Got Pockets, where just like finding the surprise pockets in your favourite trousers, I'm bringing you perfect pockets of joy and realness. Every week, I'm having unfiltered conversations with women who crack the feck on, even when life gets proper lifey. Women with experience, expertise and wisdom. Because sometimes the best stories start in the middle. Women who've been there, done that, and they're still figuring it out. Join me for real talk, useful tactics, and all the swears in between that make your life and business feel that bit more manageable. Well, hello. Welcome to another episode of It's Got Pockets, which gives me all the joy of interviewing fabulous people about their stories, about their lives, about their plot twists, about how they've got to be where they are today. And today's guest has had some twists and turns in how she's got to where she is and is frankly fucking amazing inspiration. And we're not talking ages, but I'm going to say I'm really bloody way older than she is. And what Lesley has achieved in her years is just frankly amazing. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to introduce to you very shortly the fabulous, the lovely Lesley Robertson. And she's the girl, the woman, the lady, how do we like to refer to ourselves these days, who made a career out of being a lone parent. And that's something that I can really relate to, being a single mum for a lot of years. So it's one of the reasons why when I started talking to Lesley, I was like, we need to get on here. We need to talk about what it's like to run a business, build a business, crack the fuck on, and be a mum as well, be a parent. She's a charity founder, and Lesley's passion is about eradicating child poverty. And we're going to absolutely dig into why is that important. But the first question, hello, Lesley, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. The first question I would like to ask you is, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Ambition. Ambition gets me out, and for everyone that's told me all along, even from starting the charity, the coffee and cookie brand and the other projects and initiatives that I have running won't work, prove them all wrong.
And have you always been ambitious?
Yes.
And from being younger, you've had something that's in you that's driven you.
I don't know if it's a funny story. My brother might cringe at this, but when I was a little girl, I had an estate agents, and it was about 6, and it was called L&D Homes. My brother's called Derek, so Lesley and Derek Homes. And I used to cut pictures out of the Huntington Advertiser, our local newspaper, and pretend to be an estate agent. Also, my uncle used to sell dodgy T-shirts. I can talk about this now because he's dead, right? It's fucking. And when I was really young, so I had a real towel. And all this stock used to come, like he used to sell at the market stuff, all this stock used to come with invoices. And as this young kid, I had a real towel with real invoices and real stock. And I had to put them into, get the orders right and staple the invoice onto them and get to use this towel. One of my other uncles, he owned a lot of nightclubs and stuff. So from a very early age, he was in there. So I would say that I was ambitious from day one. I always knew I wanted to have my own business. And I always knew before that my biggest aims was to work for the BBC and was to have my own business. Charity never even came into it until later on in life. And now I wouldn't do anything else because my charity's got both the commercial and the kind of charitable side to it. But I'm not driven by it. I mean, don't get me wrong. When we've gone further to my story, obviously every parent that walks in that we support could have been me and my son. So that drives me. Kyle, my son, drives me to succeed because selfishly I want him to know what his dad did was wrong, but he was the young boy the wee boy that made me change, go out and change people's lives for the better. But if I'm honest, it's ambition because I love business and I love working.
And I think so many women are afraid to say they're ambitious. It's almost a bit of a dirty word for women, isn't it? Because then if you say you're ambitious, you almost feel like you're getting your elbows out. But it's the same as just having a passion and a purpose and moving towards it.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't need to be like that harsh. They have this stereotypical businesswoman that's, really harsh and out there, wham. You don't have to have that. That's not ambition. That's, the whole kind of women empowerment and girl power era was years ago when I first set up Junior, so like 10 years ago. But there's so many women that are ambitious, and it's something that you should be proud of, because if you want something in life, you have to go and work for it, unless you're really fortunate and have a really privileged upbringing.
Well, and most of us, real business owners aren't, we see the stories, don't we, on
Yeah.
all the different platforms about, look at me in Bali, sipping my brew,
Yeah.
managing to earn 75 gazillion pounds by just blinking. Or, the story is somebody that's got to chair of the board, non-exec director and everything like that. And often the story behind that is, and good luck to them all, but the story behind that is privilege and entitlement. And that is not your story. Yeah.
No. And who you know. I did a photo shoot for a yacht. But so I always take the mick out of influencers because they showcase like lipsticks and handbags and like as you say, like good luck to them. But I don't get why they're giving all this free stuff when they should be given to charities or people that are actually making an impact. So anyway, I did a yacht for sale, right? And they phoned me up and they said, they'll pay me a fee. I put it on my LinkedIn, and it sold. It was in Largs. It was in Largs. That's where my yacht was. Is it in Largs? But most people are in the Maldives, and I was in Largs.
And where's Largs? Where is it?
Oh, so it's like a seaside town in Scotland. It's not glamorous whatsoever.
We're not talking Bahamas.
But it was not glamorous. But just like, it was just, like during COVID, where I currently live, we've actually got a few influencers that stay around about, and they're all really nice girls. But like, through COVID, they're getting all these DPD parcels of they got Fiji water sent, they got all these like gifts sent, and I'm out fighting poverty every single day, feeding 360 kids a week, and I didn't get. I mean, it's changing now, but that's been through through hard work and making contacts. But like, I just think I think it's more impactful and more impressive to be known for something that you do rather than something what you've got or been given, or
Too bloody right. That and also then standing firm in your power that's what you've done. So tell me about Juniors. So what is Juniors?
So Juniors is our trading name. So our charity is called Families Like Us, and we trade under Juniors because Families Like Us sounds council. And so Juniors is like a play cafe. That's our shell. We look like a play cafe. We're actually an award-winning play cafe, and we're open to the public as well as all of our referrals. So if I call it Families Like Us, nobody's going to come there. But calling it Juniors and having it look like a commercial place, which I suppose it is in that sense, anybody can come, and our referrals that don't want themselves publicised as getting free meals or benefit advice or clothing markets or whatever, don't feel any different. They get to feel the same, as any other parent out there. And I guess what we've created is a place where it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say I'm struggling.
And how powerful is that? And what I'm hearing there is not just a place where it's okay to ask for help, but also a place where you keep your dignity.
Absolutely. Whether you're public or you're a referral, you sit in the same seats, you get the same food, you get the same 2-hour session. So we run 3 sessions a day and stuff on at night. You can use the community larder, which Sainsbury's sponsors, so I mean, that's fantastic. And we always have like kind of staff freebies, like lots of really cool freebies. You can have them. The only difference is with our referrals is that they're not paying for any of their meals or any entry. And most likely throughout the session, they're either going to go through our back. So we've got a big centre, and then the magical happens through the back. And we've got a side door as well. So we've got it's like a secret door really that we built for like delicate matters or monthly and domestic abuse. So it's like a secret door. They'll end up in there, or because even if our staff are coming out and speaking to the individuals, because we're a charity and we're paid to provide a service and not profit, then we talk to all our customers. So these people get to ask for help. They get the help that they need. I mean, we outperform social work by 95% with tough audiences because we connect, we build trust, we build friendships. I mean, obviously, the child's safety is first and foremost, but we build that, we create that, so therefore the end results are 100 times better than social work or any council-driven initiative.
And it's based in Scotland?
Yes.
Do you see it being bigger than Scotland?
Well, right now we do child poverty, eradicate child poverty in the whole of Lanarkshire, Glasgow, Edinburgh and Ayrshire. But I have a coffee and cookie brand, which is right now in 57 Asdas, and all the proceeds of that go to feeding kids living in poverty in all the local areas. So that's got scope to go further. There's scope to do kind of Zoom sessions and stuff, but to be honest, we're so busy that right now, probably not right now, but maybe one day I would take it further, because it works. It definitely works.
You found the formula. So how did you go from wanting to work for the BBC to building a charity?
So I did work for the BBC. I left home at 18, went to study in Manchester, media, then did work experience in BBC Radio Scotland. When I'd finished, then moved on to BBC London. And like the Lion King, I was at the opening of the Lion King show, worked on that. And then I came back up to Scotland. I was 22, all my friends were out enjoying themselves. And the BBC, when you're working on a show, is a bit like hairdressing shifts. So you basically work the weekend. Also, I found London really isolated and lonely because, you know, if you don't know anybody, if you're not got family, and you don't really have friends because they'll want your job because you're working for, I mean, this is, you're going back a long time ago. My son's going to be 16, you know, so a long time ago, you know, it was la creme de la creme. So everybody wanted the BBC. So I came back up, and then within a few years, I was with a guy who was a lot older than me, who I was totally naive with because I thought he really loved me. Cool. And I fell pregnant, and he wanted nothing to do with the son, and he just abandoned us. So it wasn't a great time. It wasn't great whatsoever. And then he moved on, and so because I had more business in between. Of, if you've ever been to the races up in Scotland and you see girls selling race cards, that was my first business. It was called Faces of the Races. So I always had like a kind of marketing and PR job, or business and a part-time job. So obviously the racing was only seasonal. So I did that, and then I worked part-time, fell pregnant. The dad wanted nothing to do with us. And by this point, my brother took over. I mean, it really wasn't great. A child that I wasn't ready for. The father had walked away, and the stigma of being classed as a single parent was horrific. You know, the father was also denying fatherhood, which doesn't help. We live in quite a small town, so that was highly embarrassing as well. And there's nothing you can do, you know, until the baby's born. Then, once my son was born, his dad had met someone else that had their own kid, 6 months older than Kyle, another boy, who had his own dad, and his dad just took nothing, no Christmas, no birthdays, nothing. So I was on a downward spiral, basically. I couldn't cope with life. My brother had taken over the racing, you know, and then you get to a certain stage where, first of all, I had taken Kyle to the doctors, maybe about 2, and they asked me to step on the scales before I stepped out. I was like 6 stone in weight. So I got assigned a support worker, so not a social worker, a support worker. And I got sent to these council-run initiatives for single-known parents, where you're statistic, deprived upbringing, you're low education, non-driver. I've got a first-class honours degree, and I came from a really nice area, right? It's just circumstances, you know, like, you know, and I was desperate to find another lone parent. So not a single parent, because single parents insinuate the father's involved in some sort of way, whether it's maintenance, whether it's Christmas, whether it's birthdays, whether it's a weekend. When you're a lone parent, that means lone. So I was desperate to meet a lone parent who was going to tell me everything was all right. Following that, everyone's like, oh, you have to go and get a job, that will make you feel better. So I got a job in a call centre, in John Lewis call centres, doing sales on the gift list. Now, I think everybody should do a sales job, because if you can learn to sell, you're flying. But I had been in high pressure positions, you know, my own business. I had been ambitious, I'd left home, and suddenly I had to be grateful because society had offered me a job. Society had taken a chance on this single parent, you know, a few days a week, one day at the weekend. And I went in and I did my training. There's a girl there called Nadia, who I've lost touch with now, but she was the funniest girl I'd met in a long time. She kept me going through training. But when we get into the actual job, I was like, I had this idea from day one, that I wanted to create a place that didn't matter how much money you had. Like, nobody had to know, but you could all come together, the kids could play, and you could learn off people. Because I wanted to learn off a lone parent. You know, but it wouldn't look like a council place. It wasn't a community centre. It was like a play cafe. So one day, halfway through my shift, I got up, I put my earphones down, and I walked out. And everyone went to me, what are you doing? You're mad, you're mad. And I went, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So I went round to your business gateways. I went to business people that I knew previously, went to the council, and everyone went, no, 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 your idea will never, ever work. And I was like, it will. So I wrote a letter to the big lottery, and I wrote everything I had done. And because my son never got a Christmas present, I used to do every year, every child deserves a Christmas present. Because of my work with the race, and the Daily Record actually ran a story on me. It was a single parent setting up a business, and a married couple setting up a business. And I had this charitable status because of the work that I did at Christmas. So I wrote to the big lottery, very loose terms of what I wanted to do, and they funded me.
Wow.
And that's how it happened.
And has your vision for it ever changed from that moment?
Absolutely, because the vision of it at the start was for single lone parents. Now we deal with families of every shape and size. You know, it's about families rather than, I mean, don't get me wrong, my biggest target audience of families living in poverty are lone parents, single parents, but we deal with every type of family that you can get. Also, within 18 months, I mean, a lady from Social Enterprise told me to give my 10 grand check back to the lottery. My idea would never ever work. And it didn't work. You know, I'd said to you when we spoke first time, I opened, so we're 10 years this year on 15th of September. And when I first opened up, the only people that turned up was my mum and my best friend, and that definitely wasn't through choice. And, you know, I opened in an area where if there was a need for it, nobody came, services wouldn't work for me. I did it 6 days a week. I couldn't put the heating on because we couldn't get any money. The job centre didn't know what to do with me because you're not unemployed, but you're not working, but you're a lone parent. They just didn't know what to do with me. So I got like a benefit for 16 weeks. Then that was it. And then I had nothing, and I really experienced life like having absolutely nothing. But so in the December, I thought I was going to go bankrupt. I got another award from the lottery in the January, and then the next minute I got invited to apply for the J.K. Rowling funding, and I got it in abundance. And then I milked the PR for that, you know, and it dramatically grew. But at the start, it was more of a kind of community hub. Now it's a fully grown business with purpose. You know, we work with big brand names.
Yeah.
Massive brand names. You know, we've got a football academy, a dance academy, a holiday home down in Craig Tara. I get surplus stock from my first years from Sainsbury's, and that goes out to, you know, families living in poverty. You know, I speak at events, you know, raising awareness about poverty. So I guess my vision has changed. It started off small, but that's growth, isn't it? It starts off small, but the aim was always there. It was just kind of navigating how to do that. And as much as I might sound confident, when I'm navigating every day. So don't really know what I'm doing, but it tends to work.
Now, I love that, because I think that is something that as women, we all feel. You know, I was talking to someone earlier this morning, and we were talking about how we're constantly side-eyeing at looking at what people are doing, and that whole sort of, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? You know, when I'm 52 and having run my own business for 23 years, still go, oh, should I be doing that thing? And that feeling, not the actual action of not knowing what you're really doing. So you feel that on a daily basis, a weekly basis, hourly?
all the time, you know, like, you know, so I don't have, like, people ask me for 5-year strategy plans. I have none. I don't write them down. They're all in here. But what tends to happen is I'll see something, and I you know, sometimes it can be a disappointment, whether it's in my life or whether it's in somebody I'm dealing with's life, and I'll see an opportunity. So, for example, right now, so we did 3,000 Easter eggs, and for Mother's Day, I made up bags, little pink bags. I got the coffee and cookies done in pink, and we gave them out. Disappointment, because I never got a Mother's Day present one year when my mum was really ill, right? And you're not looking for the present, it's the acknowledgement. So through that disappointment, I seen that opportunity. Through working with a family, as our next big initiative, they're in a horrendous start to the year. They're in complete poverty, and the young girl wasn't going to go to prom, even although she'd worked really hard for it. So now we've got a prom emergency happening where I've got a girl signed up to do all these spray tans, the dresses that we've had, and the shoes, and we're going to shut the centre, and do I get ready for prom? We've got a company sponsored us to give kilt and suit hire for the guys. So, but do you know that way? So I just see something and I do, all right, I'm gonna do that. There's no thought process, and then you advertise it. And sometimes I can put something up and it can have within 30 minutes over 1,000 views. And other times it doesn't, and you think, oh, how am I actually going to do this? Was this the right thing to do? And I've made mistakes, absolutely. But yeah, no, and very much the imposter syndrome. You know, sometimes I get these people to work with me, and it's men, right? It's middle-aged white men that come and sit, and they're maybe helping me with a funding form, or, you know, maybe I'm doing a presentation, and I sit and I listen and I think, that's not juniors. You're making it too. We are a full Scottish registered charity. We have all the systems in place. We have a trustees board, we have an operational board, accountant, chair, everything. We do our meetings, but we're not like your traditional charities. We do not shake buckets. You know, we're resourceful, we're creative, we look for new ideas. So sometimes you bring these people in who you think are going to be better than you because they're older, they work for bigger charities, and then by the end of it, you're sitting and you're doing, why does I even bother? Because they've rewritten what juniors is when that's not what it is. So imposter system's huge as well. You think you need the help, and then actually I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And that is, you know, that asking for permission almost for other people to validate what you're doing. Yeah. And then you sit there and you go, Jesus, I'm doing this anyway. And I'm doing it better, but I've just not had the inner confidence. I call it the inner edge.
Yeah.
You know, the inner edge to go, actually, this is brilliant. How do you manage that? You know, because that's resilience, isn't it? You know, your story, you've got up, you've cracked on, you've gone, and you've gone, and you've gone. How do you keep your resilience going? How do you keep that toolkit?
I just think I must have been born with strengths. Very, very strong. And I know what I'm doing because I've lived it. So I know what makes it better, you know, and I've lived a fabulous life, a terrible life, and then, you know, obviously a fabulous life. So people can tell me as much as they want that my ideas aren't going to work. If I think it's going to work, I'm going to do it. And that's all about it. And if it doesn't work, I can look myself in the mirror and say, oh, well, it didn't work. But if I really feel it, 9 times out of 10, it works. But I still have them all saying, you can't do this, you can't. Yes, I can.
Yeah. So that is your gut instinct. Do you think that as women, we need to lean into that a little bit more?
We need more confidence in ourselves. So I can be very confident in work, but I'm actually really shy and really quiet and private outside of work. Like even all my social media is like all work. But if I don't even know if it's women, but we're dealing with women in general. Self-belief is the biggest gift you can give yourself, because if you believe it and you want to make it happen, that's the thing. Because self-belief comes in all different kind of pockets. Well, just use the name of your podcast. For us, ambition and success and business and stuff is our self-belief. Other people have self-belief in different ways, but it's absolutely your biggest gift, because if you don't believe it, how can you make anybody else believe it? You know, and you know, it's like transformation, you know, but it takes time. You know, I can say this, but you know, there's a fear factor that comes in, because as humans, we're wired to survive and not thrive. So fear's our default, which whispers in our ears, this is never going to work, or people going to laugh, you know. But if you take that action and you do it, because you know, you get that, like for me, I get this like burning feeling inside. And I need to do it. I need to find out everything about it, and I need to do it. When I get that, I just do it. But I mean, that's taken years. I mean, I won all these awards, and you know, I won Women in Business for my charitable work in the UK and in Scotland, Innovation Awards, like all these stupid awards that I won that you'd think would make me do, I know what I'm doing. It didn't. I still questioned until, like, I suppose you get to a point where, like, now, I suppose I do think, I believe in this, so I'm going to do it.
I love it. And that mic drop moment, self-belief is the biggest gift you can give yourself, is absolutely, that's it in a nutshell. So how do you do you do that with the families that you work with? Because that must be, it's a big enough issue for us as women in business who are seeing successes.
Yeah.
How did you manage it, and how do the families in your care manage it when actually there's just shit hitting the fan left, right, and centre, and it's coming at you from all angles?
So we make them celebrate even the small wins. See them getting up and getting a shower and making their way down to juniors, that's a win. So a lot of it's to do with that. I realise that they're not strong like me, so they need a voice. So I'm quite happy to be that voice until they're ready to take that step. But we work with families for around 18 months. It's not an overnight success, but we get them to celebrate. We get them to look for the positives. We train them on what they're lacking. Parent capacity courses, skills, pediatric first aid, whatever it is that they feel they're lacking, cooking skills, we can teach them, and we validate them by building trust with them, by the connecting with them, right? So we build their trust. Everyone that works in juniors has had a real life challenge and come out the other end. We're all mums, so we know what it's like, and I'm not going to lie, sometimes I'll make up a story, like if they feel like a bad mother, I'll tell them a story to, make them laugh, it'll make them feel better. I compliment them. I remember something that they've told me, and we, a happy thing, and we go back to that. In terms of the self-belief for me, and just, you're better telling me that something's a really great idea, and then I won't think it's such a good idea. But the more people that tell me things aren't going to work, or I'm this, I'm that, I'm like, no, sort this, and that's a personal thing.
So for you, that someone sort of saying you're driven by proving people wrong, by going against the grain and going, actually, don't you bloody well tell me what to do, I'll show you. And actually, that's the other thing I've heard from what you've said, is that the way that you deal with it, and this is all the stuff that I talk about when I'm working with women in coaching circles and things like that, is that actually it's about the action. We can never think ourselves out of anything that's going on. We can't think ourselves out of anxiety. We can't think ourselves out of overwhelm. We can't think ourselves out of imposter syndrome. It's the action that counts, isn't it?
Because, to be honest, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but if you think about it, right? Motivational quotes, positive thinking, vision, but they'll cut it. They're all very nice, but they'll cut it. The only thing that makes anything real is action. The small steps, the belief, and they're doing it. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's not simple, but it is simple.
Yes. But taking that first step, and if women aren't, you've talked about your inner strength that you've got in absolute abundance.
Yeah.
Well, I know from when we've talked before that you've had days where it's been bloody shocking, and you've had days where you've had to pick yourself up and crack on because there's no one else around you. Yeah. It feels like saying take the action is an easy thing to say, but actually it's those small steps that count. Like you were saying, take a shower and get to the centre.
Absolutely.
Celebrating that is so important.
So important, and that's what we do. So we ensure, certainly when I recruit my staff, now they must be qualified, but I don't know if you've ever been to Disney. In Disney, all the princesses smell like you do as well. You smell your eyes, right? So your full face lights up. So we catch them the minute they come in the door, and we can work with pre-social work, during social work, and still after social work. And our place is always warm, and it's always nice, and they come in and they get a cup of tea and they get a cake, and we compliment them and we build their confidence, and we make sure that everybody that leaves feels like they've had a number one hit single, even if it's only for 5 minutes. But that 5 minutes turns into 10 minutes, turns into 15 minutes. They're not alone. We try to link them with like-minded people, right? So they're not alone. It strengthens their support network. People feel they're alone if they can make friends. The isolation and the loneliness goes. We understand. We don't judge. We don't give advice. Well, we're not allowed to, so we don't anyway. And we help. We put things in place that makes it easy for them to access the help. So, for example, if we've seen a red flag in our centre, we've got leading conversations. So it depends on the level of the red flag. But say this was just a slight red flag, so a leading conversation. Then if we've seen it again, we would have a further kind of conversation. And say if they, and a lot of times, and you wouldn't believe this, but a lot of times they will say, I need the help, right? And we say, well, you should only be scared of social work if you are abusing your child, right? If you're abusing your child, that's the only way you should be scared of social work. They're there to help. And we'll say, well, why don't we bring Mary in? So Mary's one of our social workers, right? We'll say, we've got a social worker that we work with called Mary. She's lovely. Tell you what, why don't we arrange a chat? It's just a chat. We're doing juniors and see how you feel. So we're not saying, do you know what? There's red flags. We've got concern over. Now, sometimes it can be over just the family dynamic. There's a lot of domestic abuse out there, like huge case of domestic abuse. There's a huge case of poverty with the husband. He's gambled all the money away. The mum's ended up, up on her own, but there's no question mark over harm to the kids. Obviously in domestic abuse there is, but with that. So we're not saying you need to go social work, you're a bad parent. We're saying you need support and help. We know somebody that can help you. Why don't we all sit down and have a chat? Do it. Because we're not sending them to the social work office.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it? Is that the power of a chat rather than the fear of being summoned. And actually, if everyone can have a conversation, the simplest of conversations lead to the best of the actions and intent. And then you can see that help and support is there. So what you're doing is you're taking the fear away.
Taking the fear away, because we can tell. So if they're a referral, they normally come with whoever's referred them for the first time, and then they come independently, and we all keep in touch with each other. Right? If they come in an afternoons, we just know our referrals. Right? Not them all, but huge time for referrals because it's slightly quieter before our nighttime sessions. If they're hanging around our food bank community larder, there's a question mark over it. If they are only drinking a cup of tea, question mark over it. If they're aggressive in their speech, question mark over it. So it's building that trust. It's going back to the whole connection, because everything's about human connection. You build that human connection with them. See, by their third visit, they're disclosing it. And that's when you can work with them. That's how you do it. And you know what? Unless there is a serious issue over the child safety, see what they tell us. We don't necessarily run back and tell social work. We only do it if there's a red flag. And obviously we've got a criteria to follow. We're all trained. But, if they tell us about something that they don't want anyone else knowing, we don't tell. We always have 2 members of staff talking to them at the one time, and we take them through the back. That's safeguarding for us. But what gets said in juniors stays in juniors unless there's a child protection issue.
Which comes back to trust. Yeah, and that I was just going to say, that word trust, is that power of human connection, and having that area where people can come in and feel themselves and be themselves means that people are more willing to then be transparent. And that whole thing about being vulnerable, they're more likely to be vulnerable if they feel that they're safe.
Absolutely. And, not even referrals. Mums in general. And, we can tell. So we see a mum coming to the door who's clearly been up all night having a baby. We sit her down, we give her a cup of tea and a cake, and we let her get herself together because she's knackered. And then we just chat. Maybe it's about EastEnders. Maybe it's about fashion. That going round everybody that comes in and complimenting them. Nice jumper, I like your hair. Oh, where did you get them shoes? Or it doesn't matter. Remembering that snippet of information that they've all told you, relaying that back to them, that builds. Yeah. And that's what it's all about. Human connection is huge, and letting them be vulnerable, and that trust of knowing that they can tell us anything and we don't judge. And quite often I'll take the mick out myself, or the piss out myself, I'm allowed to say, because you know what? I make disastrous decisions very much in my personal life, right? And if I'm going to do something, it's either going to be amazing or it's going to be like the worst thing in the world, So laughter, so taking the piss out myself encourages them to laugh, and them to open up, because you know what, we're all humans. We're all trying to navigate this life that's been thrust upon us, that even if we thought we were ready, we might not be ready. We don't know our straightforward path, because every conversation and every action has a consequence. And you sometimes, things just happen. COVID should have taught us that more than anything, but it's not. But so that is how you do it. I mean, honestly, like, I'm really good at chat. I'm really good at the chat. I'm really good at business. But oh my God, when I make mistakes, they are huge, huge mistakes, and I retell them. It makes them feel better.
And how long has it taken you to feel, or are you still working on it, to feel comfortable in making those mistakes?
Well, I mean to get comfortable with it, because I make masses of mistakes. But now, so my manager, so she's my manager, right? And she's like a family member now. She's been with me since we started. And sometimes I'll go into her and I'll say, "Oh, I've got an idea." She says, I break her heart, every time I say that, because it means more work. But like, if I go in and I've made a mistake and I tell her, she'll just do, "God's sake, Lesley, I've not seen you for 24 hours and now this is happening." And then we work together and we sort it. But I've got to say that I have got to the stage where, see, normally, like, I laugh. And I don't know whether that's through nerves, or whether it's just, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. As long as, like, I've not hurt anybody or lost to charity, like, money, then, it's fine. But no, I'm okay with making mistakes. I make plenty, plenty.
That just when you said that, then that absolutely took me back to a flashback. So my daughter is 23 years old tomorrow. Who knew? And she was a very happy accident. And I remember when I was working for a massive corporate at the time, and she's the reason that I ended up setting up business, because the corporate then went into administration. And I was 6 months pregnant and couldn't get a job, and no one would give me. So I started my business when I was pregnant. But when I found out I was pregnant, I walked in and I was running a team. And a girl who's actually a woman now, obviously, and she was my marketing manager, and she's brilliant, great friend now. And she looked at me and she went, "Are you all right?" And I'd been to Boots and I had 7 pregnancy tests with me, right? Because I couldn't quite believe I was pregnant. And this is probably going to get me a bit of hate as well. And she went, "Are you all right?" And I went, "I think I'm fucking pregnant." And she just looked at me, and we'd not known each other really well. Like, we've worked together for a while, but And then she says, what are you going to do? I went, "I'm going to go and smoke these 10 fags, and then I'm going to do these pregnancy tests." And I went, and this is back in the day where there was smoking rooms in work, and I didn't even really smoke, but I went and thankfully my daughter's fine, blah, blah, blah. And I smoked the cigarettes, and then I went and did all these pregnancy tests, and I was pregnant, obviously. And couldn't get hold of the he was a partner at the time. And so I rang my mum. So the first person that found out I was pregnant was Lucy, who is still a brilliant friend today. The second person that found out I was pregnant was my mum. So I went into the MD's office. He was away somewhere, and sat down, and I rang my mum up. I went, "Mum, I've got something to tell you." And she just, the line was, "Oh, for God's sake, Sarah, what have you done now?" And I just went, "You're going to be a grandma?" And then she just burst into tears, and then that was it. But when you said "for God's sake," that was just like, that was hilarious, because my mum was so used to me plot twisting and navigating and going left instead of right. And
when I was pregnant, it's quite funny as well. Like, so when I found out I was pregnant and the dad walked away straight away, I didn't tell anybody. Oh, my friend knew, right? But nobody knew. And it's so funny. So my cousins live in Australia, and 16 years ago, when they were moving to Australia, they got married. And they got married, and I went to the wedding, and I ordered a dress a lot, because I was only 8 stone 2 at my final 9 months pregnant, so I was tiny because I was so sick. But I had this pregnant this stomach, and I went to the wedding, and my mum bought me a pair of control pants because she said I had a stomach in my dress.
she didn't know you were pregnant.
No, I really didn't know, right? And I used to go down, my mum worked in the Boots, and I used to go down Hamilton with like a vest top on, a coat on, desperate for someone to see it, because every time I went to tell my mum, well, first of all, my dad works away in the rigs. My dad's it's like military organisation. for the first time in like God knows how many years, he got ill, and he actually was home longer than he should have been. There's no way I was telling him when he was at home. No way. And he just didn't go back for like weeks. So then he got better and he went back. Then every time I went in to tell my mum, the phone rang. My auntie came in. And I said to her one day, Mum, if I tell you something, do you promise not to tell anyone? And she went, oh, you know me, Hen, I'd need to tell someone. Well, that was I'm not telling you then. So then I used to go down into her work, and everyone just kept saying how good I looked with that wee bit of extra weight that was on. Freaking pregnant. So my cousins are back. This is 16 years since they've been back. And I told you I had an operation, so I've got like padding on me. And I was like, and I looked 7 months pregnant, right? And I was like to them, we went to the 50th on last weekend, and I went to them, I'm not pregnant, by the way. I know the last time we said that I was, but I swear this time I'm really not pregnant, you know. But yeah, but when I told my mum, it's because I got spotted at a scan, and my mum said, she says, where have you been this early in the morning? If you've been away to see about getting them teeth bleached? And I thought, oh my God, you're going to wish that's what I was wasting about. And I told her, and she went, oh, you're not. I am. You're not. It's like, I am. It's not a big joke.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's like, it feels like, I don't know if you're old enough for the Chuckle Brothers, so it's like, to me, to you, to me, to you.
It was like,
no, I really am.
Like, I am. Like, I was like, Mum, why would I, like, make something like this up?
And how did you convince her?
And she sat down, and she's like I showed her the scan. So I knew Kyle was going to be a small baby because I was getting growth scans. But then, so just because of the circumstances and stuff, and see now as a parent, I get it, right? If I had a girl, I would not want her to be on her own with a baby. Now, we adore Kyle. Kyle is king. Kyle could set my mum and dad's house on fire, and my mum would say it was just plain king, you know, and he rules the roost, you know. But it's incredibly hard. Doing it all by yourself is incredibly hard. And also falling pregnant and it not being planned and then having to do it all is really tough. Like, there's no plan B. I have to bring in money. I have to support him financially and emotionally. Doesn't matter how bad a day I've had, he comes first. You know, but it is very, very hard. Even just simple things like when you're not well, you've nobody to take your bin out, you know, or, you know, there's nobody to take over. It's all down to, you know, it's all down to you. So my pregnancy wasn't celebrated, let's say. So I actually blocked out being pregnant. I never did anything to hurt the baby. Although I did have a cigarette when I found out, like you, and my friend actually that knew I was pregnant took it off me, which I was raging. So I really wanted that cigarette. And I didn't do anything to harm the baby. I worked in the race and still, I was still working like the day before my due date at one of the races. I went into labour on my due date. It was born 2 days later. And it wasn't until they said one more push and they handed me this baby that shit got real for me. And it was the biggest shock of my whole entire life. We knew I was having a boy. And my mum wanted a girl. She's got 3 grandsons, and she kept saying, it might be a girl. It's like, it's definitely a boy. It's a boy. And I knew I would have a boy because his dad's family's all little girls, all blonde-haired girls. And I thought, I'll have this dark-haired wee boy, which is, you know, what I had. We had all the furniture and stuff. I hated going to mother care, which is where we went at the time, because I used to see young couples and it'd be nothing. And Kyle's dad's, you know, he did a great job. He had his own business, actually, and so you're there yourself. So all this furniture and stuff was all like lying. I took nothing to do with it. I'd signed him up for nursery 6 weeks. I was going back to work because it was all blocked, and then the next minute they gave me this baby. I was like, shit. Like, yeah. What did I do?
And I think that gosh, it's bloody years ago for me now, but I remember the state of pregnancy being very different to suddenly being thrust into being a mum. And I will say, I think that in every single case that I know, being a mum, the minute you become a mum, most of us have this visceral love, need to protect, and it's on us.
Yeah.
And therefore with that comes that duality of emotion where you've got that constant worry, that constant concern, and you know, you watch your kids go through various twists and turns, you know, and things that have happened over the years. But for you, that must have been supercharged because because you were on your own, you know, and not just on your own, you just had no fucking support from that bloody idiot that
it was so difficult because you think, imagine having your baby, which is the most wonderful thing in the world, like the love you have for them. And his dad had went and raised another kid who was a boy, 6 months older than our son, and couldn't even send a Christmas card.
Oh, Lesley.
See, you know, soon they went shopping for Christmas presents. Did they never think that Kyle might like one? No. Then he went on and had our 3 other girls. So he knew what it was like to be a stepdad, because the wee boy's dad's a fantastic dad. So this wee boy had his dad and he had his stepdad, and I got a lot of hassle of like friends and kind of over that side, you know, like the grandparents won't acknowledge him, still to this day won't acknowledge him. And you know, that was a hard pill to swallow. I'm not going to lie, it was a hard pill to swallow. And you know, I used to say, like, because his name, he put his name on the birth certificate. That was really important to my dad, so you get forced to do that, right? But see, now I wouldn't bother my short tail about it. But it was a really hard pill to swallow. They used to put all their stuff all over social media. I used to see them out and about. Like, people don't know what it's like. That's my whole thing. So see, before I went to any Christmas activity, any soft play party, any swimming, I had to check the cars. Because although Kyle wouldn't have known who it was, I knew what it was, and I had to have to sit and see him playing Happy Families and not acknowledge our son. It's a hard ride. It's like you have to check everything. Your anxiety's through the roof. You know, we live where we live is all small. So what do you want me to do? Pack my bags and move miles away from my family for support? So you almost become, you have to go and do stuff, but your day's ruined before you're even there. People want to take you out and do stuff with you because they know you're down. They can't relax because the door opens, a car pulls up. What if it's them? What if it's them? Or you walk past them in the street with balloons for the birthday party and ignores your kids. Horrific. See them in Asda, you know, it's a really, really tough thing. So, you know, a lot of them, they don't so much now, but, you know, like their family. And can I just say that his dad's got a brother and his wife who have taken to do with Kyle since he was born. And they are fantastic people. Fantastic, because Kyle's one of them. You know, they've got 4 kids of their own and they take Kyle's one of them. Do you know what I mean? And they've been there from the start, you know, and it caused multiple arguments in that family, but they said they were not having him walk past and not know who they were. You know, but yeah, like, so it was definitely tough. And all the hate and stuff that I got, if his dad wanted him so much, what did he not take me to court for? Right? His name's on the birth certificate. And then it's so weird now because so many of the people that gave me crap at the very start, they've all ended up single parents and suddenly I'm a hero.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. I was, very different story, but I was the first single parent in our group. And it was alienating. It was really alienating. And actually, I love my friends dearly, but quite a lot of them, you know, if they were having a gathering, it was a couples gathering, I didn't get invited. And I don't even think they did it consciously. You know, I don't think it was I don't think that any of them thought, oh, we're not going to invite Sarah because she's a single parent.
Yeah.
I think it was just, oh, right, it's couples. Or I got invited and then there was another single person there, which was also equally hideous.
Yeah.
But now it's massively changed because, like you say, quite a few of the circle of, you know, everyone's like, you know, there's been people navigating divorce, death and all sorts of things going on. So,
and it becomes, they understand it. And it is hard, like, because you think about it as well as, like, if you're on your own, or even if you're got the dad's there and they go at weekends, your friends can be having something when it's not their weekend and you can't go.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you can go for a wee bit, but you have to come back. Or like family holidays. Yeah. They're hard. Yeah. You know, it's people, and I don't think, I think people only understand when they go through something like it. You know, like, but it's definitely difficult, and yeah, it was but I say that, right? It was difficult, but do you know what? For me, I've never known any different, so I really have no idea what it would be like to have someone there helping.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what that's like.
And I echo that in the fact that I'm so grateful. It was me and my two kids and our little tribe, and we are
Yeah.
so fucking close. And I bloody love it.
Yeah,
I
and it certainly
absolutely love
does.
it.
It certainly does bring that closeness, doesn't it? When it is just, just Jews. Like, I mean, Kyle is like he's well overtaken me. Like he's got his own business now. He's doing t-shirt printing.
Wow.
Those skills we've been apprentices. So he's going to do joinery with his uncle actually, but right now he's like printing t-shirts. But he's like way ahead of the game, and that's because I think just living in the house with me, but it's obviously cleverer than what I am. So like by this, I mean, he could run his own business right now. And he came to all this kind of stuff with me and got all these little opportunities. As a wee boy, he'd no idea what was happening. And at the age he is now, he's so embarrassed. I'm not even meant to mention him on, but no, it's nice. And I don't know, but it is a different relationship, isn't it? When it's just you and them, it totally is.
Definitely. And it's one to be treasured. Now, we're running out of time, and there's a
know,
couple
I'm
of things
sorry.
that I want to ask you. So the first thing I want to ask you is going back to what you were saying before, is you were talking about how you walked into a room and, I can't imagine how you dealt with that, dealing with the overwhelm of being a parent, the anxiety of being a lone parent, all the other shit that you were dealing with. But then that constant scanning for danger. We were talking about that survival. Do you still scan for danger constantly?
No. Nope. Because I don't care anymore. Because if you think about it, and the reason, I'll tell you, I mean, I'm honest why the reason I don't care, because I have built one hell of a career out of what happens. My son is provided for in every way that he needs, and more for them. Because when everybody laughed at me for saying I'm going to do this, the last laugh is on them. Mm. Because I have a great career at, and you know what? My experiences help me help others, so I can understand the parents. And this, my son's 16, he's going to be 16 in August. Would I like to go out for dinner with him? No. Would I choose to be in their company? No. His sister actually requested me as a friend on Facebook. And I said to my sister-in-law, is she off her head? Because she put me through a terrible time. Yeah. And I don't care that it's 16 years on, I'll never be her friend. I'll never, ever, But, but if anything, it's, to break it down, like he embarrassed me in a local thing. I've done it nationally. Yeah. So I guess, and I have my son, so I guess I'm the winner. You want to do it like that? Yeah.
Winner, chicken dinner in your face. So,
in your face. You should never abandon your child, or this would never happen.
And well, I think you probably would always have done great things, Lesley. I'm not going to lie. I think that regardless of your experiences. But the other thing I just want to touch upon before I ask you about your 6-word memoir is the power of role modelling. So not just are you role modelling for all the people that come in, that power of human connection, but something you said there really struck a chord with me was that, the fact that your beautiful boy is already looking at business and work ethic and grafting and grit and determination, and that's what you've gifted him.
Yeah. So I used to think, so Kyle is nothing like me. He doesn't look like me. He doesn't act like me. We don't have the same sense of humour. I'd say black, he'd say white. So in terms of determination, maybe I could say it's like me. So he's leaving school and I'm saying, Kyle, just stay on another year. It's like, because you don't know, what could happen. Like, stay on. And he's like, no. He says, I'm going to be a joiner. And I went, I'm going to an apprenticeship. I'm going to be a joiner. And he went, Mum, I'm going to work in the family business, because he calls them, they're his family, for 3 years, and then I'm going to set up myself. And I went, it's there. Then it's there. So he studies school, so he can't work till he's 16 in August. So I'm trying to set him up with these roles, and then it's like, oh no, I'm going to print t-shirts out. And so we've got a t-shirt printer coming. My garage is all set up for this, and he's making a fortune by printing t-shirts and selling them. So maybe more so now, I'd say he's getting like me, but if he'd asked me this last month, I'd have said he's nothing like me. But I guess he sees, he says all I do is work, but he sees the benefits of it. And I don't think he'll be a great employee later on in life anyway. Maybe he's better being an employer.
Yeah.
as well.
Someone asked me yesterday if I'd ever go back into full-time work, and I reminded them of my business for 23 years. I went, I'm pretty convinced I'm unemployable.
Absolutely, me too. You know, sometimes when it getting really tough with the charity, when you're losing funding and you're fighting, my mum will say, just go and get a job. And I'm like, no. Somebody's telling me what hours I have to work. Like, I mean, obviously everybody's got rules and procedures to follow. But I mean, if I want to finish my work at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can do that. But that 9 to 5, 15 minutes in the morning, lunch break, no, it's not for me. It's not for me. I don't want to be employed.
And that entrepreneurial spirit is absolutely what I can see you've passed down to Kyle, you know, and you know, I imagine there's going to be a few interesting discussions along the way as you both.
Oh, there's already, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I waited for this like all these years, and then I'm not going to lie, like the other night, I was like, oh my God, what have I created? Like, you try to wrap this t-shirt up in this. It's like, I'm like pulling thing back. I says, can't do that, Kyle. So you need to fold it correctly. So I've got this folding thing and wait for an envelope. Anyway, do you know? I was like, oh, actually, I know quite a lot. I was like, you won't get any return class. But then it was World War III, you know? And I'm trying to say to him, you need to look at our designs. So it's a certain football team that he's into that he's set on. And he's like, no. And I'm like, but. And then I'm like, oh my God, like this is all. Because then he was on. Now I'm actually moving house right now. So I move house. So you can imagine everything's up in the air. And he's looking for these envelopes. He's looking for these folders. I have no idea what anything is. And I was like, I just want to sit and watch Mobland and Paramount. That's all I wanted to do on Sunday. But no, freaking all these. I'm like, oh. So yeah. So I mean, it's fun. But at least he's actually doing something.
Taking action.
Taking action, just doing it. Yeah.
It's almost like he's listened to his mum right there. So I ask all my guests to give me their 6-word memoir, whether it's the legacy they want to create, whether it's the rules that they live by, or whether it's the mantra that they have in the morning, or whatever helps them crack on. Lesley, what's your 6-word memoir?
My only limitation is my imagination. That's it. And I fully believe it.
And everything that you have said so far in our conversation today has absolutely displayed that. You've had to have the imagination from day one combined, because that is only workable if you combine it with your grit, your determination, your inspiration, and we started at your ambition as well. You've been bloody brilliant, inspirational. I've absolutely loved having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
As we button up another episode of It's Got Pockets, remember that just like that perfect dress with hidden storage, you've got pockets of potential. You can be exactly who you are meant to be with no one getting in your way, not even yourself. Just remember, you're not done yet. That plan B or plan C might be waiting for you. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to work with me, or simply want to connect, come and find me at sarahknightconsultancy.co.uk. On Instagram, I'm Ministry of Midlife, or on LinkedIn, you'll find me as Nighty S. See you next time.